Hey guys, this is Austin, and today I'm here with Ask Me. So this is my series where I answer all kinds of questions straight from you guys. So let's get started. Yo! What are your thoughts about the new iPhones? I'm mostly impressed with what we've seen. So iOS 7 looks like a major improvement over iOS 6. It was definitely starting to get a little old there. The 5C, I'm liking the colors a lot. That's one of the main reasons why I like the Lumia 1020 is you can get it in all kinds of cool colors like yellow and stuff. It is a little bit expensive and the specs are basically very similar to the iPhone 5, but it is nice that we're getting at least a little bit of a cheaper iPhone. You know, Apple's kind of working with us a little bit. Now the 5S is looking like a standard iPhone update, so it's very similar to the 5, but it's got some cool new features like a better camera, an Apple A7 processor, blah blah blah. But I think the big thing with that is going to be the fingerprint scanner and whether it's actually going to be a useful thing or a little bit more of a gimmick. Do you see yourself making phone build videos if the phone block concept were to become a thing? It would be cool, but I really don't see this whole phone block thing taking off. Now the idea is that you take a lot of different parts and you kind of build your own phone, kind of like Legos almost. And while that would be awesome if it were possible, and it is sort of possible, but it's very, very unlikely that, first of all, you could have all of these companies working together and all making parts that are in these little block-sized things, that you could get a decent enough interface where you could just say, okay, I'm going to throw a CPU on here and a camera and a battery, and it would all work together. Kind of a little bit unlikely. But if you guys want a little bit more on this, my friend Marquez, he did a great overview talking all about Phonebloks. You guys go check that out. Cool idea, probably not going to happen. What is your opinion on stock coolers if you aren't interested in overclocking? Unless I'm doing a build that's specifically meant to be overclocked, I pretty much always stick with the stock cooler. It's going to get the job done, it's going to be fairly quiet, and it's also free, which is nice, as obviously if you buy an aftermarket cooler, you have to take some of your budget away for maybe some extra RAM or a little bit better graphics card or whatever. So unless I'm overclocking, I stick with the stock cooler. How does it feel to live in my shadow of me being a hot guy? Nice try, but I am not going to touch that one. Wait, do you use a case on your phones? If so, what cases do you usually go for? If not, why don't you use a case? Aren't you worried about dropping it? I'm not really a big fan of cases. I mean, sure, it's definitely going to be helpful if you drop your phone, but for the most part, phones are pretty durable, and sure, you might scratch it up a little bit, but I would much prefer to have a couple little scratches on my phone, as opposed to having a nice, awesome looking design that feels and looks great, and you put a giant ugly rubber case on it. It's like, well, what's the point? Have you ever owned a MacBook? And if so, did you like it? Definitely. I've been using an 11-inch MacBook Air for the last couple years. So I actually prefer MacBooks to Windows laptops. There's some cool stuff in OS X that's kind of nice to use when I'm getting away from Windows. And the MacBook hardware itself is great, especially these new Haswell Airs with awesome battery life. So yeah, I like the MacBook Air. In fact, I've already reviewed this one if you guys haven't checked that out yet. But it's a really great laptop, especially for me because it's super thin and lightweight and portable. So when I'm out, doing an event or traveling or whatever, it's really easy to make an entire video on the Air as opposed to having to keep that giant computer behind me with me at all times. What is one device that you are glad you did not get? Definitely the Lytro. So this was a really cool looking camera that came out a year or two ago. It was in this very weird shape, and instead of taking pictures normally, it actually allowed you to do some cool things like being able to shift focus after the fact and all that kind of stuff. Now it would have been cool, and I was actually really interested in it, but a couple friends kind of talked me out of it as it was, well, just not very good, and it was also $500, so definitely very glad that I didn't get that. Probably used it 5 times, did a video on it, and never touched it again. Can you remember the first ever video game you bought? Definitely. So my first game that I ever bought with my own money was Pokemon Red. So I was about 6 or so, and all my friends were starting to play Pokemon. It had just come out, and it just immediately was just this huge thing in my school. So I knew I had to get a Game Boy, and I had to get Pokemon Red. So I saved up my money, which as a 6-year-old was really, really hard to do, but I did it. And my grandma ended up chipping in just a little bit of extra money so I could end up purchasing the game as well as the Game Boy. So I went down to the store, got a lime green Game Boy Color as well as Pokemon Red, and it was about the greatest moment of my 6-year-old life. Anyway, that's going to be about it. If you have any questions for next time on Ask Me, feel free to drop them over on Twitter, Facebook, or Google+, and of course all those links will be in the description of this video. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Yo. I found this thing called a cute girl. Is that a Pokemon type? Yes, you should absolutely start by using Charm, maybe a little sweet, I can't do this.